Hello everyone, my name is Stanley St. Rose, and today we're going to be talking about Battle Royal, written by Ralph Ellison. Now, before I go into the summary analysis of this work, please remember to leave a like, subscribe, and or comment so that the channel can continue to grow. So Battle Royale gives us the story of the Invisible Man. This is the first chapter of the novel Invisible Man. It kind of sets the scene and sets the mood and sets the atmosphere for the novel in general. If you want to know more about the entire novel, I have a video talking about the summary analysis of the entire novel. It's in the All Books and Plays playlist on this channel. So if you're looking for that, you can find that here too. But for this video, we're only going to be talking about the first chapter because the first chapter is very significant. There's a lot of symbolism in it. And there's just so much to uncover with the first chapter of this book. Basically what happens is that we get the narrator. He is within a community where there is no equality between black and white people. His family comes from slavery. He's well aware that black people are coming from an enslaved they're coming from enslaved ancestors, and he's part of several generations that are adapting, I guess is a better word, that are adapting to American life, as you're not sure of what you are, because since you were born in America, you are an American, but you don't have full rights, you don't have you're not a full American citizen because you're not equal to Americans, and you exist in a world where racism and classes and there are issues, social and political issues that revolve around gender and class and race. So our narrator is very naive at the beginning of this work because he has this ideal in his head about, if you work hard, if you work hard 100% of the time, you study hard, you work effortlessly. There you go. If you work, to the point where, you're looking for success, you are chasing after success, you're going to reach success. Now that might be, if you're on a level playing field, that might be the case. But here, the narrator, he doesn't really see the world for what it is, or the America that he lives in. He doesn't see it for what it is. He's not yet an invisible man within the first chapter. To add on to this, his grandfather was just like him. His grandfather was a hard worker. His grandfather, worked hard. He always kept on smiling on his face. He always, shown that he was happy, because the dominant culture within America at that time, that's what they told him to do. So he did it. He put on a happy face. He did the jobs he was told to do. He worked where he was supposed to work, and he had a family. He raised kids. But on his deathbed, the grandfather tells the narrator and the whole family that he's a traitor. Now, we're told that he was a meek man, like a man that didn't cause any trouble, a man who did what he was told. So the dominant culture told him, to obey, to be humble, to work physical labor jobs, and to be humble, because that's the path to success, when it really wasn't, because he existed in America where he couldn't have all the freedoms and all the opportunities that, that the dominant culture had, that white men had. And so he was told that, the world was open to him, that all opportunities were open to him, and that he was equal to everyone because he wasn't a slave anymore, but he really wasn't. So pretty much he was kept running. He kept on, the society that he lived in kept him running all of his life. And he knew that he was a traitor, because although he put a smile on his face and did what he was told, his heart wasn't in it. He didn't believe it because, it was a trick. It was a way that the dominant culture presented his life to him, that seemed like he was reaching progress, but he never was reaching progress. So the narrator here, he is, he listens to his grandfather. His grandfather says this before he dies, and the grandfather is like, put your head in the lion's mouth, keep a smile on your face, do what he says, but know that he's not looking out for your best interest. He's not looking out for you. He is literally putting you on a stage, making you act for him, and you're basically a clown, and they're watching you perform. They're laughing at your performance. Now the narrator finds this hard to believe, because in his community, in the town that he lives in, he's always worked hard. He's very smart. He has a great vocabulary. Very smart black man in America. Before civil rights and all of this, now this is great, but the thing is, like, he doesn't have equality. He doesn't have social equality. And when he graduates, and he's heading towards college, the truth starts to reveal to him a little bit, because in this first chapter, what happens is he graduates, he gives a speech. The speech is very similar to Booker T. Washington's Atlanta Exposition Address. I might be saying that wrong, but there's a famous speech that Booker T. Washington gives, and he talks about putting aside civil rights and equality for basic training and vocational jobs for African Americans. W.E.B. Du Bois was not happy of this, and a lot of African Americans were not happy of this, because everybody wanted civil rights and equal rights, and that's what they should have. But Booker T. Washington just wanted to kind of like stop the South from exploding. So he was like, okay, for right now, we just need vocational jobs and hardworking, backbreaking jobs, so that we can, make some money. The narrator of this novel, Ralph Ellison, or the narrator that's telling us the story, he has the same mindset of Booker T. Washington. He even says that he pictures himself as a Booker T. Washington within the first chapter, within Battle Royal. He even says he sees himself as Booker T. Washington, which is the thing that we should be recognizing here, is that Booker T. Washington's view was all about being humble, all about just accepting what you were given, and just being at the bottom of the barrel in society, not having equality, not having rights, not having due process, not having any of that good stuff, which is very misleading. So the narrator graduates high school. He gives this speech. He's invited to come to this hotel, and all of the leading men within this town are there at this leading hotel, and this is all rich white men. That they own property in the town, they own real estate, they own all the businesses, they have all the power and all the money, and everybody else is pretty much at the bottom. Even white women are lower, because it's pretty much just the rich white men, and then everybody else is lower, because within this event or social display, we see a white woman is used as entertainment. She is at this event, and she is nude, no clothes whatsoever. She has a tattoo of the American flag on her stomach. Yes. And then what happens is the boys, they're like, young boys. They're kind of like put right in front of this woman. She is, I guess you could say she's an exotic dancer, but the men of this town, they actually get too excited. She's dancing exotically, but she's naked, and then the white men are kind of like trying to touch her, trying to grab her. And then you can see like this terror on her face, and the silver white men, some of them come in to save her and help her get out of there, because the men were getting very handsy. So that right there has a lot of symbolism. The white woman, the naked white woman, that has a lot of symbolism. After that's done, Ralph Ellison, or I keep saying his name, but the narrator is placed into a makeshift ring, thrown in with a bunch of other minorities, black kids, and they have them violently beat each other up. I'm talking about blood. These are young individuals, young black men. They throw them into a ring. They beat each other up, knock each other out, and then they throw them on this rug where they have to like collect coins, different coins, and the kids are just doing this so that they can get a payday. At the end, they all get $5, except for the one that won the battle royale, the boxing match. Basically, he wins $10. They all go home, and then the narrators pulls back in to give his speech at this event too. And basically, his mouth is bloody. He's like drinking his own blood because there's a laceration inside of his mouth. And within the speech, he talks about casting down your bucket. Doing work where you can find it, vocational work, being humble, and this is all coming from Booker T. Washington, or Booker T. Washington's views. And somewhere within the speech, he says social equality, and they pretty much almost literally ended his life. But they don't. He says it was a mistake, and at this time, nobody wanted to hear anything about social equality. It was about knowing your place, knowing that you're an African American. Stay where you are. You're gonna get vocational jobs. We're gonna send you to schools where you can get that type of education and stay at the bottom. There's no upward mobility in terms of business, in terms of politics, in terms of anything like that. And yeah, he had to watch his skin because, especially to these men who are the tycoons and the businessmen and the leading individuals. The narrator tells us that these are the leading individuals in the town. They especially did not want to hear anything about equality because, yes, there's race and class and all of that, but that's also, they're worried about their money. They're worried about things changing. When it comes to wealth and when it comes to money, all right. When it comes to money, things get very defensive. Things can get very dangerous. So after he gives his speech, they clap. They don't really care. When he's giving his speech, most of them are drunk. Most of them are pretty much blacked out, drunk, smoking, screaming. They're doing whatever they want. They don't really pay attention to this kid. It's talking about being humble and pretty much, she's pretty much saying African Americans should stay in their place. No search for equality, no search for anything like that. Just be humble and do these vocational jobs that involve technical skills. And so by the time he's done, they just clap automatically because I guess they just planned to do that. They plan to do that, and then they give him a briefcase as a gift, and they also give him a scholarship to the Negro College, and they send him off to the Negro College, which is it's just that's just so bad. That just those two words put in together, it's like a conflict. A Negro College is just a conflict. It sounds like you're reaching towards upward mobility, but are you really? So after this, he goes home and his parents actually celebrate. They actually are happy. And then he has a dream where his grandfather, him and his grandfather, the narrator and his grandfather, they're at the circus. But everything that the clowns do at the circus, the grandfather never laughs. This is because the clowns pretty much represent African Americans. They're kind of like put on display, especially during the time of Booker T. Washington and after the Reconstruction era, after Emancipation Proclamation. You're told to stay in your place, know your place. The narrator is even told this at this event, at the Battle Royal, to stay in his place. Don't be talking about social equality, anything like that. They told him several times to stay in his place. In the dream that he has where his grandfather is at the circus with him, his grandfather is not laughing at the clowns because of what they represent. The grandfather makes him open the briefcase, and he just keeps finding a bunch of empty things. And eventually, he finds like a letter or a note that says, "Keep this nigger boy running," and that pretty much means like, stay in your place, know where you belong. We're gonna give you the illusion that you are heading towards upward mobility, and that you're progressing to be rich and wealthy and have power, but you're really not. But we're going to display it to you as if you are going to do that. And if you read the entire novel, and you read what happens with the narrator, we know that he becomes the Invisible Man, and he ends up realizing what society he lives in, and what impact it has on your life when you live in America, when there was no civil rights, there was no equality and no due process and things like that. So Battle Royale, that's pretty much what happens. It pretty much ends with him having this dream about his grandfather, and what his grandfather told him, how, he wore a smile on his face, he did all he was told, but he was pretty much, he was told he was going to head towards progress, but he was pretty much a clown in a circus, because they were just keeping him running. They were keeping him running, keeping him at his place at the bottom of the barrel, and that's the first chapter. That's what it's revealed to us in the first chapter. So there's definitely classes, especially when we're thinking about the 1940s, 1950s. You had rich white men, as they had the power. They economically they had the power. Socially, politically, they had the power and the wealth and everything. White women didn't even in the terms of course of American history, white women had to fight for their voting rights, fight for their own equality. Same thing for African Americans, same thing for immigrants, same thing. I mean, that's pretty much American history. It's just everyone immigrating to America and then obtaining their rights. It all started with, even the American Revolution, with Americans gaining independence from Britain, it's always been about the dominant culture facing off a smaller power, and over time the smaller power finds a way to gain what's theirs. I guess you could say that's a pattern within American history. Minority groups, first they're oppressed to the point where they have to represent themselves, fight back, and obtain what's theirs. And that's America. That's the American story. It's always been about that. And that's the first chapter of Battle Royale by Ralph Ellison. In terms of deeper meaning, in terms of what's significant about this, you can see the ripples in the works of Booker T. Washington in this. You see what effect it had on this narrator, on how he praised Booker T. Washington. He was taught by his parents and even his grandfather to be humble, to not worry about equality, to not worry about these things, and just work hard in school, do what you're asked of, and stay in line. But the thing is, like, staying in line here in the society that he lived in meant to never better your life, to never look for equality, to never because keep this nigga boy running pretty much means keep them in their place, figure out a way to not let them talk about social equality, to think about it, to reach it, keep them in their place, keep them in the circus. And the thing is, like, our narrator was fully, he fully believed this. He fully went after it. Because he really thought that was the way for progress and the way of upward mobility, and it's really not. Another thing is the grandfather kind of realized this, and in another way, I guess you could say, even helped our narrator realize this later in his life, But the grandfather, he actually believed in all of this, what the dominant culture was telling him. He believed in it completely, and then he realized that he was just being kept in check, and that he was being kept in the circus. And he kind of wanted the young people, especially since he saw that the times were changing, and we're talking about 1940s, 1950s. Times were beginning to change. Equality became something that was being discussed. It became something that was being pushed to the mainstream. And so I think the grandfather kind of realized, from my own perspective, I think he realized this and kind of like started to urge his family to help fight for that. The other thing that's very significant, or that's a deeper meaning in here, is the story kind of gave us an idea of possibly what African Americans could never reach, right? Because there was this idea of there's a part of America, a part of, I guess, the American dream that wasn't for minorities, that wasn't for African Americans, and for the longest time that was the case. But times have changed, times are changing, and I guess that's not the case with anymore, because you could definitely see the power structure within this work, because you saw the role of women, especially a white woman, and the struggle she had to face, and also the struggle that these African Americans, these boys had to face within the society that they existed. So there's a lot to this first chapter, and a lot to this novel by Ralph Ellison in general. But those are the few things that I saw that from my perspective I thought that was important. There's always more to the story, but that's all I had to say about it. Please remember to leave a like, subscribe, and or comment, and I'll see you guys in the next video.